How's it going?
Hi.
Hey.
Sort of to start things off, you guys had some might call it a season that wasn't quite successful because you guys didn't make it to the semis or finals. But looking at your results and analyzing it, your team did amazing. I mean, you obviously had some holes in the recruitment process, as any team had during this COVID period. But in terms of results of individual swimmers, in my opinion, your team did great. Could you please analyze the performance of your team this season in general? Zach, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Um, like you said, I think we did have a lot of really good individual performances. Not just us three, many other people on the team as well. I think kind of where we lacked was in depth, which kind of resulted in why we didn't make the semi. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of to highlight Tommy coming in, I wasn't really sure, how useful he was going to be in the ISL setting. I just didn't know. I mean, it was just kind of a toss up, and he ended up being like one of our better athletes on the team and being one of our higher point scorers every match. So it was really cool to see that. Someone like Kwa Ting Wen from Singapore, she joined our team a little bit late in the first season, and so we didn't really get to see much of her. And then in this season, she kind of had a good breakout year, and had some huge swims, broke a couple of her national records, and was a good contributor to the team there as well. But yeah, I think kind of on the depth scale, we were lacking quite a bit, and that's kind of what resulted in our not making the semifinal.
Thanks, Zach. Just a quick question off of that. You mentioned that the depth wasn't there, but just looking at a lot of the swimmers you guys have on your roster, it seems like they're capable of swimming many events, but the format doesn't really allow them to do so. For example, in my opinion, Amy, you could throw down an excellent 100 IM potentially, or even 2 IM, but we never saw you do that. Or for example, Tommy, we saw you do an excellent 400 IM, but you got to do it only once. It was such a letdown.
Yeah.
Amy, do you want to speak a little bit more about how was the season from your perspective? Do you agree with Zach? And did this format really mess you up a little bit? Do you think like with a different format, you guys would have done better?
Yeah, I think it's just really interesting with how the format's laid out. I always joke that the format's not good for backstrokers. Like we have some really hard days, and typically sprint backstrokers can be pretty good sprint freestylers as well. And I was in the boat where I needed to be more of a backstroker than a freestyler, and I would have loved the opportunity to have been able to get into both. But like Zach was saying, we just really didn't have the depth to move around our certain like locked in pieces like that. So I think like that will be something that will be targeted in the recruiting process next year, to have really not even just 2 depth, but get your 3 and 4 depth, so you can really start playing around and seeing which equations of putting people where adds up to the best results. And I would have loved to swim 100 IM. I wanted to do it so bad, but we just didn't have that wiggle room in the backstrokes, and that's totally fine. Maybe next season potentially, we'll see. But yeah, I think DC got a lot of flack for recruiting, but I think it wasn't really addressed that DC stole a couple big names from other teams. I came from LA Current, Margot came from LA, Linnea came from LA. Like there's quite a few moving pieces around, and I think that was really good on DC's side as well. So yes, we did kind of lack depth, but the recruiting process, in my opinion, wasn't all bad. I mean, Linnea made it really far in skins. Every time Margot stepped on the block, she was going 52 lows consistently. So yeah, I think we have areas to improve, but we also had areas where I think we outshined some teams.
Thanks, Amy. And yeah, we definitely saw these 53 100 freestyles from you in the relay. That was mentioned, of course. And talking about the recruitment stage, I believe that you guys are looking to recruit some of your former Cal teammates, especially from the men's side. I don't know if you're aware, but I believe a lot of big names are coming your way next season.
That would be awesome. Go Bears!
Go Bears! Thanks, Amy. Tommy, how would you analyze the performance of your team this season?
To be honest, I think we did well. Like at every meet, I feel like I always saw DC Trident like fighting in every event. It just seemed like at some point the meet would get away from us. It would be like one event where we would just get completely jackpotted, and then we would all of a sudden be down by like 30 points or something like that. But I think that like Zach and Amy were saying, like we are a solid team. We're just lacking something with the depth. Like we can't always go 2-3 or 1-2 or something like that. We always have like a solid performance, and then also part of it was a lot of our teammates were like struggled to find pool space. Like I swim at Michigan, and I was lucky to not be in Michigan this summer because it was like there were no pools available the entire summer. So like I think that kind of plays into it. Whereas like some of the teams that have a lot more international swimmers, they might have had better access to pools. But in general, like just to get back to the question, I do think that we performed well. And I think that our team showed a lot of promise, especially in like events like the 400 mixed free relay. Like I think we won it 2 or 3 times. And it was just, it's like displayed that we do have solid swimmers, and maybe we're just lacking in the depth.
Yeah, totally. And there was a bunch of matches that you guys got second in the medley relay also.
Yeah.
You were up there a bunch of times, yeah. It was really close for you guys to getting to pick skins.
Yeah.
Talking about the skins a little bit, if we fantasize of you guys winning the medley relay, obviously it's going to heavily depend on your opponents in the respective match. This happens. But if you were to pick skins race, for example, if you replaced, let's just say you replaced LA Current in the final and you got to pick the skins, both for men and women. Tommy and Zach, do you want to voice sort of the your potential decision on the men's skins race if you guys had to pick? And Amy, would you want to voice the women's pick for the skins race if you were to pick it?
Yeah, I think. Oh, you want to go, Zach?
Go for it. You got it.
Okay. I think on the women's side, I would have chose Butterfly. Because I think Linnea, yeah, I do, because I am a good backstroker, but a 50 is a challenge and it's a stretch for me. So I think we would have the best chance to put 2 in the top 4 in the fly with Linnea and Ting. I think that would be our best bet on the women's side. If not, try to go freestyle and get Margot, Linnea or Ting in there, or even myself. I think I would choose fly or free on the women's side.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Interesting to hear from you, but sort of analyzing this now, it seems like you guys really lack this person who could at least swim the skins race, and like you guys can be comfortable with this person making it to the final, right? Because Amy, for example, sorry to interrupt, but you swam the skins race twice during Budapest, and both times you failed to make it out of the 3rd round. But Bruno, I don't know if you remember this, but analyzing the skins race before this happened, we said this multiple times. If Amy makes it to the 2nd round, Amy has the speed endurance to make it through. Do you feel like if you were to make it to that 2nd round, you could have made some damage?
Oh yeah, and that was always the thing. It's like if I would have made it through that 1st round, like game over. I knew I had it, but it was hard because again with the depth factor, that would most of the time was my 6th event of the meet, whereas a lot of other teams had the ability to be fresh for skins or just really rest those skin swimmers. And no excuse. I mean, I struggle with a 50 back even if I am rested, but it's really I think if I would have gotten through that 1st round, it would have been a different story for us.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Zach, Tommy, do you guys want to voice your opinion on the skins for men's side if you were to pick in the final?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get to even try out a skins once this year because I think freestyle was only picked once in the whole season, and we weren't in that meet.
On the men's side, but on the women's side, a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, well, only once on the men's, I think, right?
Yeah.
But I think I could have done well. Again, I think our breaststrokers could have done really well this year as well. With Tommy and Ian, Ian kind of struggled this season, but I think a big factor in that was lack of pool space, kind of what Tommy hit on earlier in the podcast. But Ian's one of the best 50-50 breaststrokers in the world, I would say. And so if he was on point, I think that could have been really done well for him. And then, I think I could hold together pretty well with my 200 background and a skins, and I have the good, decent enough stop end speed that I think I could have been top 4 in the first round. So yeah, I think that would have been our 2 strong suits if we would have gotten to choose.
Okay, thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
Tommy, would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I would really like to see freestyle because we do have a lot of freestyle sprinters on Trident, and so it was disappointing that we never got to see something like that. But I didn't really mind because I was able to do skins twice. Actually, it was really fun. But yeah, I think that Ian had a lot left in the tank that I didn't really get to show. Like I would like to consider myself 50 breaststroker, but I fall more in the 200 range, and so I think that we had the potential, but we never really showed it throughout the season. And also we were swimming. It seemed like we were always swimming against like some of the best guys, like Emery Sachi from Iron, or we swam against London Roar twice, and so we had PD and Pagoda. So we were always swimming against really good guys, and so we never necessarily got the chance to like shine. But that's our competition we have to fight. So yeah, but I think breaststroker freestyle too.
Thanks, Tommy. And I think the same goes for you as it goes for Amy. If you were to make it out of that first round, you would have been dangerous, right?
I always thought that too. But you gotta have that front end speed. And the last skins race I did, I was 600ths away from making the second round. So I was close. Maybe next season.
Maybe next season. But yeah, once you have someone like Emery Sachi split 325s in a row, it really changes your perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost breaking the world record every time.
Tommy, talking about your performances, guys, I mean, both of you three had a college career. Tommy, you at Michigan, Zach in Auburn, and in Indiana, and Amy in California. Did you think that your background really helped you guys to perform during this season, where we saw a lot of meets in a short period of time? Because it seemed that you really stand out in the team, talking about DC Trident scoring the most amount of points.
Yeah, I think the college background is something that helps a lot. Not only with the back-to-back racing, dual meets are kind of set up that way in the NCAA and in the NCAA championship, where you race, 4 to 6 times in 2 hours, and you have to step up every time and do it for the team. But not only that, but in the team atmosphere as well. I think a lot of foreign swimmers kind of struggle with the getting behind their team aspect. And I think that's something that we brought super, super strongly with DC, was the fact that we were a team and that we were going every match where we were going in together and we were going to fight no matter what place we were going to end up, we were going to be together as a team. And I think that's something that the NCAA experience kind of implements really well.
Yeah, I think it definitely encourages like selfless swimming, kind of like Zach was saying. Like it doesn't matter if it's your first, 6th, 7th event of the meet, like you're going to get up there and you're going to go out there and perform to your best of your ability for your team. Even if, maybe your best event is next and you want to do really well in that, but your team needs you to do well in this event. So you're just going to lay it on the line every time. I think the NCAA and just the college atmosphere really like puts that into the athletes. So I think that really shines through at the ISL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with everything that Zach and Amy have said. It all honestly felt like every match was like a more intense dual meet to me, because like you weren't 100% ready to go. You would have multiple swims in a session, and you just had to step up there and do it for your team.
I think I want to go back and touch. The first season. I think in a lot of the NCAA swimmers' minds, we were kind of going into it with a dual meet mindset, and we showed up and it was against, the best swimmers in the world, not just, the team down the street, they're having a dual meet against. And so I think a lot of US swimmers kind of got a wake up call that first season where we were treating it like dual meets, and, you show up to a dual meet tired and, you may not have your best performance, but it's different when you're coming against, literally all of the best swimmers in the world in this dual meet environment. It kind of gets pretty wild.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good point. That we really saw the change from the first season to the second season. But talking about those dual meets and what you mentioned about the intensity that we can see there, your team environment seems that it's one of the, if not the biggest one of the whole teams in the ISL. Can you tell us why is it and how did you guys hang with each other during the whole 4 weeks there in Budapest?
Yeah, your guys' support is really unique. On par with Aqua Centurions, maybe New York Breakers.
I think our coaching staff and Caitlin did a really good job of, when we first got there, honestly, like sitting us all down and introducing everyone to everyone. It wasn't like everyone got to know everyone. Everyone got to know the reason why everyone was named what they were named. You know, we were kind of doing bonding on a deeper level than just a surface level. And I think it made it really easier to get behind someone. You know, like I've known of Zach for years, but I've never known Zach. And so like being able to like kind of hear his story, hear what his life was during quarantine, and to hear his journey, you know, I was like, dang, like Zach's a great guy. I really want to get behind him. And then Tommy, I was like, oh, like don't know anything about Tommy. He like seems like a really smart guy. He's always over there doing homework, like working so hard. And I was like, I have no idea how this like guy is gonna perform. And just like seeing how hard he works, not only in the pool but outside, like every single time he was behind the blocks, like all I wanted Tommy to do was have the most amazing race. So I think it really kind of became a genuine, you really wanted everyone to do well. There was no like, oh, I want to swim really well, but I want her to do well, but not as well as me. You know, like that was not on DC Trident. And I think that was such a reason why it was such a positive team environment and why most of us were able to swim to our best capabilities, because we fully felt supported and we fully wanted to lay it on the line for everyone else that we were swimming with.
Thanks, Amy. Much of the same for you, Zach?
Yeah, I would echo just the same thing. You know, I think that's what something was unique about this season, was that we got to be together for such an extended period of time. You know, the first season we were in teams and we would be together for, 4 or 5 days. But you didn't really get the chance to get to know your team and really build that environment. And so I think that's something that was unique about this season, was that we were able to really get to know our teammates and get to know, why are you competing? Let's get behind you. What are you working on in practice? You get to see it every day. And I think that's something that the NCAA does well, is that you get to see what your teammates are doing every day. And so when you get to the race, you know what they're trying to do and like how to support them in that way. So that was really fun.
Thanks, Zach. Tommy, much of the same for you. Did you know a lot of athletes coming into DC Trident on the roster, or were you relatively?
So on DC Trident, there's actually a lot of people that I'm familiar with from just collegiate swimming. There's a lot of guys from Indiana, guys and girls, and people from other Big Ten schools. So I was familiar with them. I knew them pretty well. Zach and I actually grew up probably like 45 minutes away from each other. But there was also a lot of people that I didn't know. I knew their names, but not very much more about them. But yeah, like on the very first day, we were going around introducing each other. I was pretty nervous to stand up and say my name, because there was like half the room was strangers. But by the end of the 6 weeks we were there, everybody was like my closest friend. Like I could sit down and have a conversation with anybody. And so I feel like we were really lucky to have such a cohesive and team atmosphere there with DC Trident.
Thanks, Tommy. And sort of bouncing off of that unique atmosphere your team has, what do you guys think of the new drafting system? Because last time we spoke in Budapest, to you, Amy, and to you, Zach, you guys mentioned that you wouldn't like to switch teams from the DC Tridents because you would like to build up the team and bring it to success with your own forces and with the team that already exists. But with the new drafting system, you guys are allowed only 15 swimmers altogether to remain on your roster unchanged. And the rest of the swimmers are up for grabs. They're in the draft. What do you guys think of this draft system? And do you feel like the team atmosphere is going to change next season because of this draft system?
Yeah. Of course, it was great to get to know, everybody on our team. But similarly to an NFL or an NBA, the players don't really have much say in where they're going. Maybe a little bit more in the NBA, they kind of try and make requests about where they want to be traded. But when it comes to professional sports, it's all about trying to be the best team that you can be. And so if you end up being, not one of those 15 swimmers that they hold, it's just kind of the way the world works. But with that said, I think the three of us will probably be within that 15, reserved roster. And so hopefully we can, help Caitlin and help the coaching staff kind of build that team atmosphere again next year. And, really have the benefit of having that team together. If we can add in a little bit more depth through the draft, I think we could really have a really good season next year with that awesome team atmosphere that we had this past season, along with the new people that we're going to bring in through the draft system.
All right. Thank you, Zach. Much of the same for you, Amy and Tommy.
Yeah, I think with a solid core of people who have stayed, I think we can, if we're the ones who are being reserved, just like show them, the new swimmers, how we work together and how we support each other, and bring them into that good team culture.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like you guys built up a atmospheric culture in the team already, and with the bulk of the people that will stay, you'll be able to pass on the atmosphere and the sort of the principles of the teams to the next people who are going to come in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Amy, would you agree?
Yeah, I think, and the new draft system to me kind of replicates a college team, like for 1 year, the team's the same, then you have seniors leave, you have freshmen come in, you have transfers out. So I think it's kind of the same thing where the people who have been on the team know the culture, like know how they want the team to be. And I think for any team, really, it's going to be about bringing these new people in and getting them to buy into what the team culture is, and buy into being on a selfless team, and buy into like leaving your ego at the door and go out there and race for your team. So I think that's going to be like what DC is going to have to do with the new draft system. Thank
you, Amy. Yeah, makes total sense. And sort of backing off from that, another new addition that was made, but it was made for this season was the Jackpot Rule. How do you guys feel about the Jackpot Rule? And also the Jackpot Rule in the start of the season also worked for prize money, but in the future they decide to take that away. What do you guys feel about that? And what do you think of the Jackpot Rule in general? Tommy, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So my opinion on the Jackpot Rule is it definitely adds an interesting aspect to the whole meet. And so you'll see teams like the Breakers with Marco Cook. He was able to score 30 points or something like that in one event. And so that definitely gave some teams a great leg up. But it seemed like more often than not, the teams that were doing the jackpotting were the teams that were already in the lead and didn't necessarily benefit or change their place with the big increase, and only extended their lead. But it definitely did add an interesting aspect, and I didn't always feel like I was trying to stay away from that jackpot line. I got jackpotted actually in the 50 breast, which I thought was kind of interesting, but yeah, it definitely added an aspect that I wasn't I'm not really sure how I feel about it, to be honest. I still have mixed emotions, but as far as the money goes, I think that the change for going to moving to not taking the money away is a good change, because if we do want to make ISL a way for swimmers to sustain a professional career, it shouldn't be they shouldn't have the fear of getting their money stolen, because I know there are really, really good swimmers like Caleb Dressel who would jackpot everybody, and then that kind of leaves the other swimmers high and dry. But it does add an interesting aspect.
Yeah, I definitely think it was an innovative new addition and a innovative rule. When I first heard about it, I absolutely despised it. I did not like it. I did not agree with it. Not one part of it did I like. And then during the season, I was on both sides of it, where I did jackpot and then I was jackpotted. So I think I was in an interesting situation where I could see how it felt on both sides. And I definitely agree with Tommy that I'm glad that they changed, that the money wasn't taken away, because at that point it just felt like the rich were getting richer. And why was everyone else here like trying to go as fast as they can, when there are just those freaks of nature like Caleb who can just jackpot everyone when everyone's still going fast. So I do like how that was tweaked a little bit. I would love to hear how like the viewers thought of it, what they thought of like how it played on TV. Was it easy to trace? Was it easy to understand? And but overall, like I do think keeping the sport innovative is a great idea. Adding these things, I'm all for that. That one took a lot of warming up too for me. I do think that how it was tweaked for the money is good. I don't know how else I would tweak it in the future, but I think it's a decent rule. If someone's winning by that much of a margin and say a 200, 400, yeah, I think it gets a little dicey on the 50s and 100s because you can have a heat going pretty fast. Someone set a world record and just jackpot everyone though. So yeah, I think the equation on the shorter races gets a little dicey.
Was this the main reason why you were on the fence with the jackpot rule to begin with?
The main reason I was on the fence is because I did not like the money aspect of it, how they could jackpot your money. That was my biggest thing I did not like about it. So when that was changed, I definitely started to come around more to the idea.
Thanks, Amy. And what about you, Zach?
Yeah, I would say that in the beginning, I was in a very similar mindset to Amy, where I was pretty against it. I thought it was just going to be kind of a rich getting richer thing, not necessarily even with money, but just in points as well. And then we went and watched. We didn't swim in the first meet of the season, and so we got to go watch. And it was pretty exciting being able to go, like watch the race and then like immediately look to the board and see like, oh, which person got jackpotted, like where do the points go, like what's happening. And so that kind of changed my mindset towards it. Being able to watch one happen was really good. And then onto the money thing, I think I'm just going to echo the same thing they said. I think that was not the right thing to do because the people getting, that third, fourth spot in the races are the people who are not making the most money in the sport right now. And so if we're trying to keep people in the sport longer, that fourth place finisher, that's the person that needs money more than the first place person. So I think that was a super good retroactive thing. And then go to touch on like Amy's thing about the shorter races, maybe implementing, I think the jackpot was about 4% of the world record. Is that right? Maybe having like a sliding scale where it's 4% for the 400s all the way down to like maybe like a 7 or 8% at the 50, like a sliding scale based on distance or something like that would be a little more even throughout the two events. But overall, after competing in the season, I thought it was a pretty good addition and it did bring some more excitement to watch.
Thank you. Interesting idea about differentiating the jackpot percentage for longer distances, making it less, and for shorter distances, making it more. Why do you think that's needed?
I think that the margin of error within a shorter race is significantly lower. You have so much in a longer race. There's not as much margin of error within that compared to a 50 free, where if you mess one thing up, you're pretty much out of the race. And so I think it's just easier to, I don't really know the exact reason, but it felt like that people were not getting jackpotted as much in the 400s and people were getting jackpotted a lot more in the 50 frees or the 50 breasts or whatever. And so just to make it a little more even that way.
Okay, makes sense.
Just to touch on that, like I got jackpotted by Emery in the 50 breaststroke, and I was still going like a 26.6 or something like that, which is like I think a pretty good time for myself at least. But he was going 25.4, nearly breaking the world record. And so that one felt a little weird because I felt like I was going a pretty good time and I wasn't getting beaten by that much. On the other side, I narrowly avoided a jackpot by Marco Koch when he went like 200 and nearly broke the world record, and that actually felt like he deserved that jackpot. So I do think that there should be like a sliding scale, like Zach said, because like when somebody is going nearly the world record in a 200, I feel like a little bit different than going that in a 50 because in season it's harder to do that, but going forward, I'm not sure how the ISL format will be, so it might be closer to get to that 200 rather than the 50.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if you look at someone like Leah Smith, who was just so dominant in the 400 free, like I'm not sure how many jackpots she actually got, when in my opinion, she should have deserved a lot of jackpots in that race. You know, she should have been jackpotting a lot of people. She was beating people by 5-11 seconds, you know, anywhere in that range. And I think in a 200, I would, in my opinion, have a pretty dominant showing and a jackpot like 1 or 2 people. Or in a 50 back, I was not that far behind and I would get jackpotted. So I just think what Zach said, like having that scale, like that sliding scale is a really good idea moving forward.
Makes sense.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting how it plays for the next season. But I want to make you, Zach, a quick question. Tell me the secret of how can you do a bunch of 45s in all of your 100 freestyle that you swim in 3 weeks. I mean, how was your preparation going to the ISL? And that first match, especially when you defeat Caleb, doing 45-7, I believe, how was it? How did you feel? Were you shaved at all?
Yeah. So I was going into the season, my goal was to be as fast as I could at every single meet. You know, we weren't sure when we were going to get to compete again after that, and we hadn't competed forever. So it was like, this is what we have in front of us, and this is what we know is happening. So let's, you know, just try and perform as well as we can here. Going into the first meet, I was feeling pretty good. I had got a pretty good training block in. We were lucky enough to have some decent pool space for a couple months before ISL. And I was swimming pretty well in training for the several weeks leading up into the camp. And so, you know, the first meet, the first day I think was the relay. I split 45-1 on the men's 4 medley, and you know that just kind of set up the rest of my meet to be the rest of my camp really to do well. And I just kind of rode that momentum through. You know, I think the biggest thing about my consistency was that I had a good block of training under me that I could kind of ride through the whole camp prior.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, it was actually in the 4x100 freestyle relay that you swam 45-1. Yeah, but a question backing up from that, just having a look at your performance. Match 2, for example, 50 freestyle, you started off with 21-1. Match 4 was 21-1 also. Match 5 was 21-27. And match 7, you had 21-55. If we're speaking about the 2 free, you were 142.9. Then you went a 153.6. Then you went a 153.07. And finally a 153.4. 43, sorry. And much of the same pattern goes for the 100 freestyle. It seems like your first match was by far your best match. Even though you stayed consistent, there was a bit of a decline coming to every match. Why?
Yeah. You know, I'm not really sure the exact reason. That's something that I did notice as well, obviously. I was aware of how fast I was going and that it was kind of dropping off a little bit every meet. But I think that's something I'm gonna have to go, you know, once we get closer into the next ISL season, is go back and sit down with the coaching staff and kind of game out, you know, what happened last season. Why was I not able to sustain, you know, all 4 or 5 weeks? You know, what can we change next year to be able to be more consistent throughout those every meet, you know, through a camp. So I'm not really sure the exact reason why I wasn't able to hold on those last, you know, 2-3 weeks. But like I said, I was really happy with how I did individually throughout the whole season, and especially how it started. Those first two meets went super well. And so, you know, it's just going to have to be something that I talk about with the coaching staff and kind of adjust for next season.
Thank you, Zach. Amy, for you, I want to talk to you about your shoulder injury a little more, because it's truly a testament to an athlete that pulls off not only an important meet with an injury such as you had, but you pulled for a month of meets with such an injury, and your performances did not deteriorate throughout the season. What was the secret? How do you achieve this? We spoke a little bit to the DC Trident coaches, and they mentioned that they were really concerned about you, that the injury would get worse, and they were trying to sort of limit the amount of your racing, but you wanted to race more. Could you open up on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 to 3 weeks before I left for Budapest. I was in practice, and then all of a sudden, just this super bad pain in my shoulder. And unfortunately, I've been injured way too many times in my career, so I know when I've like tweaked something and when I've hurt something. So I knew I messed it up pretty good. So I tried to get into a doctor as fast as possible. Was really lucky to get a doctor who had a son who swam. He swam in the past, so he knew kind of what I was going to be going into. And we sat down and talked. He told me that he thinks in his opinion, it's best if I don't go, but he knows I will go. So what can we do while we're there? So I got really lucky because on staff we had a massage therapist, Amy Murray, and I met Amy when I was 16 on an international trip, and she and I have stayed in touch. So I felt really comfortable and confident in the fact that I knew I'd be in a lot of pain, but I knew she could help me. And as well as like the coaching stuff, I was very vocal on when I first got there, kind of just, it's not like I'm totally fine, totally fine. And then I think after that first match, I went to brush my hair and I was like, not fine at all. So I think I was really trying to stay proactive about seeing Amy every single day, maybe a couple times a day, really making sure I was staying on top with the doctor. Like, should I be taking anti-inflammatories? What should I be doing? All this stuff, and just getting enough rest. And I think for me, I knew it was only going to be 4 to 6 weeks. So in my head, it was just this mental game of how far can we push this, like how far until it goes wrong, like really bad. And I think I was just really lucky to be able to maintain confidence in what my swimming was doing, and for my shoulder to not be in the way of my racing. I think sometimes when I've had injuries in the past, I'm not so confident on what I'm going to do in the pool. So I'm like, before my race, freaking out, like, oh my gosh, like my knee already hurts. Oh no. But this season I was like, you know what? It's 8 laps of backstroke. It's going to hurt, but I'll be done in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, hopefully, or 2 minutes and 1 second, just push through that pain. And I think I was really able to keep going throughout the meets because I knew I had to for the team. I knew I couldn't sit out. I knew what that would do to the team. I knew that what that would do to me, mentally. I feel like if I sat out, I wouldn't be able to come back into it. So I just kept grinding. And then when I got home, I took a solid 3 weeks off, really just try to let my shoulder rest, recover, and started to slowly get back into training. And I'm getting more help for it now, seeing more doctors. But I think just really I needed to do it for the team. There was just no other option. And I had a lot of support and a lot of help. So that was really nice.
Well, Amy, I think you have your own claim for the nickname of Iron Lady now, because it's truly a testament.
Don't tell Katinka. No.
It seemed that it really paid off because I hear you now, and you seem more confident. And after your performance in ISL, despite that injury, you did very, very well, Amy. So congratulations on that. But tell me, I wanted to ask you something. You were a new addition to the DC Trident team. You did very, very good, in my opinion, on your 200 breaststroke, 400 IM, especially scoring almost in the O's meets every time for your team. But I'm looking at your 400 IM of match 5, I believe. And tell me about your splits, because your backstroke split and your breaststroke split, they are pretty much the same, 105.0 and 105.8. That's crazy if you see from the breaststroke perspective.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I am a breaststroker. So usually my splits are somewhat close. Like during the NCAA season, they would usually be within a few seconds, but it's never been that extreme. I think just during the race, I was I felt very confident about my breaststroke from the past few meets because I'd been feeling pretty good. And as we went from fly to back, I realized that like I was up there with the front of the pack. And so I didn't have to necessarily push my backstroke as hard as I would have thought I needed to. After the backstroke, I think I realized that I let off of it a little bit too much. And so that caused my breaststroke to be really fast. And then the freestyle, I hurt a little bit. But I think that was also a byproduct of just not swimming the 400 IM in the past. Well, let's see, I swam it in October or November, and I hadn't swam it since February. And so I hadn't really, that was my first 4 IM in a while. And so I was just kind of getting back into it. And so that was probably another reason. I don't know if I had had the chance to do it again, I think I would have tried to push a little bit harder on the backstroke, but I was definitely happy with the breaststroke split, and it kind of reinforced my feeling that the breaststroke was feeling good right now.
Yeah, and if it was your first 400 IM and you did a 406, I mean, where do I sign that time? I mean, that's impressive. But I wanted to ask you another thing. Amy mentioned that you were studying during this season. I mean, I also was there in Budapest, and I also was studying. Tell me how hard it was because of the time zone. And are you doing your master's right now?
Yeah.
It's also engineering for you, right? That is a tough specialty to have as a swimmer. We had a swimmer on the Cal team, Andrew Saliskar, who tried that, and it proved a little too tough with the schedule and everything. It's a testament to you. How do you pull it off?
Yeah, so I did engineering all through my undergraduate. And at Michigan, our coaches really push us to succeed in the classroom and the pool. And so, like I'm sure a lot of other places, but we have a lot of engineers on the team. And so they kind of showed me the ropes when I was at Michigan. And so when I got to Budapest, it was a little weird. I'm doing my master's in electrical engineering. And so in Budapest, it was a little weird trying to do like my classes. And I'm also a teaching assistant. So I had to like hold office hours and things like that. But the classes weren't that bad because a majority of the students in my classes were actually not in the US. So our teachers and professors had to accommodate for that. And so it wasn't really out of the ordinary for the students to watch the lecture after the fact or something like that. So they definitely accommodated for all of us who weren't able to attend or watch while we were in the Eastern time zone. But yeah, it was pretty difficult. Some nights I remember one night after one of our matches, I came back and I had to go straight to holding my office hours, and then I had to start an exam that night. So it was pretty hectic sometimes, but surprisingly it worked out pretty well. So yeah, it was interesting.
Wow, you guys are a team of tough individuals. Let me tell you this: you go through adversity like no other team. Wow. Guys, I wanted to speak to you about a little bit about the longevity of swimmers in the world of swimming right now. You guys mentioned that the ISL, and we view ISL very similarly, as an attempt to make swimming a more of a professional sport. In my opinion, this is a bit of a double-edged sword because in one point of view, the swimmers are able to get stable financial support throughout the season. They have something to look forward to every season. They don't have to worry about making it through financially to the next season as much as they used to. But at the same time, the format of competition is so dense that, I mean, you have to think that for the older swimmers, it might be tougher. I mean, you guys are all 23. You guys probably don't know what it's like when you pass your 30s. But do you guys feel like the ISL would facilitate more swimmers like Nicolas Santos swimming incredibly fast past the age of 40? Or do you feel like ISL will push athletes to be younger in the world of swimming? Maybe 25 to 30 will be the golden age. Zach, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I think that the sport of swimming in general is kind of geared towards that 25 to 30 range anyways. And so, but I think the thing that it's going to do is it's going to, a lot of people don't make it, all the way to 30 probably. I mean, is the number of swimmers who make it to 30 is probably pretty low. And so hopefully you can just extend it, maybe 2 or 3 more years, careers 2 or 3 more years past where it would have ended. I think a big thing, at least out of the U.S., there's somebody who gets third at an Olympic trials or World Championship trials. Their season is just kind of over. And third at a U.S. trials is probably going to land you top 8 in the world in some events. And so it gives them something that they can, really go for, and that it doesn't, your season doesn't have to end. Your career doesn't have to be over. If you're, third or fourth in the U.S., it can still be this super successful career within the ISL where you can score points for a team. You can work towards a team championship. You can help build a team culture. You can help recruit, into a team, stuff like that. And so, especially within the U.S. swimmers, I think it's going to help. The people who are just outside of an Olympic team or a World Championship team or something like that, where they can really push their career longer. They've got people who are making the Olympic teams and stuff like that. If they wanted to, they can go for not as long as they want, but much longer than someone who's getting that third or fourth place in the U.S. Even though those swimmers are top tier talent within the world.
Yeah, I'd also like to say that it probably helps swimmers justify bridging the gap from graduating college 2 years away from the Olympics or something like that. I had already decided that I was going to keep swimming, but it made it that much better to keep swimming because my last Olympic trials were when I was a senior in high school, and so that was a pretty long time ago, and I haven't really had a good selection meet. And so being able to do it and swim at the ISL probably helps bring in more swimmers when they're younger and help them keep swimming longer. Younger as in just graduating college, because I know a lot of people when they graduate college, that's kind of the end, but it doesn't have to be. And so that's what ISL definitely steps into.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was that person who did get third and fourth at Olympic trials in 2016. I just missed the team twice, and that changes your life. You just missed the team. The difference between second and third is not just Olympian and not Olympian. It's, do you get funding in the sport? And so much more. It's do you get these sponsorship opportunities? It's wild. And I think ISL really comes in and steps in and, takes someone like me who people may not have realized I just missed the Olympic team twice, and it's really no, she's good, she's good. And I think it really just elevates people who kind of get washed under the radar because they weren't that first or second on that day, so I think it's a really good opportunity for top end swimmers who aren't Olympians. I think that's really good. And also for the longevity aspect, I think it kind of just is really what event you're in. If we look at women's backstroke, it tends to go the younger the better almost. And we look at sprint freestyle, those guys are hitting their peak 25 to 30. So I think ISL is really good at the fact that it'll bring in younger and older swimmers, and I think that, to be honest, is an amazing place and where everyone's going to learn more about the sport, because you've had people who have been in the sport for 30 years versus someone who's been in the sport for 10 to 15, and they're sitting down at dinner, they're talking about what they've done in their careers and what things are similar, what things are different, what new things can they both try to keep going. And I think honestly the exchange of information and the different training styles combining during these camps is really, in my opinion, going to help people re-spark the flame if they're older, or if they're younger, want to stay in longer and keep learning.
Makes sense. Thank you. And it's also so important for the US swimmers, right? Because for you guys, when you're third or fourth in US, that typically means you can be number one in many other different countries, but that doesn't allow you to be sponsored in the US as much, right?
Yeah. Right.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We know you're very busy athletes, so we don't want to keep you here for too long. But before we let you go, first of all, do you guys have any words to your fans, words to the DC Trident's fans who've been supporting you throughout the season and who are probably watching this podcast right now? And also, Zach, Amy, in your interests, you mentioned your pets, the dog Duke and the cat Potter. Can the fans potentially see them?
Yeah. I'll go get Potter. Hold on. Be right back.
It's Duke.
So this is Duke.
This is Duke.
Beautiful dog. I can see why this is your top interest. Yes.
Yeah.
I need to get a dog.
Great.
This is Potter. He was sleeping. Sorry. I'm waking him up. He's a little sleepy.
Oh, what a cat.
He's really cute. Go
I've known
DC.
Potter from Instagram before, but yes.
Yeah.
So any words of wisdom to the fans before we get this over with? Tommy,
I think go for it, Aaron. Go for it.
Okay, I'll go. I would just say thank you so much for supporting DC. I think we're the team really who wants to get better and who wants to keep having fun and be that positive team and really, keep swimming in a positive way. I think sometimes swimming can be so hard and challenging, but coming together and being a light and being a team that wants to go out there and do their best, have fun and support each other. And our fans are really big on that and sending us support and really motivating us even more. So thank you for all your support, and we're looking to be even better next season. So thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, a lot of the same. It's super fun being able to represent the DC area and compete, with a team that is, like Amy said, so positive and such a light in the sport that it's super fun, and we're super excited to get back to training so that we can be even better next season.
Thanks, Zach. Tommy?
Yeah, yes. Thank you for everyone's support throughout the entire season, and we'll be back next season better than ever.
Oh yeah. With that being said, thank you so much. It means the world for us, for you guys making the podcast, and for the fans also. And for everyone watching, our schedule slightly changes because of Christmas. Our next athlete podcast will happen this Saturday, and our match analysis will take place as scheduled on Sunday. Stay with us, and thank you